Hi there, welcome back if you've been here before. Welcome back or welcome if you're new. So it is that wonderful time of year again where I set lofty goals for myself on how much I think I'm going to read based on the current pace in which I'm reading, which always goes up in the colder months. So as soon as November hits, I'm like, I want to get indoors. I want to just like cozy up and I want to read. So leading into December, been reading a lot. Going into January, we'll probably read more. And then at February, I'll hit my peak and then usually taper off. At this year, I finally feel stable. So I actually think that I could commit to an annual reading goal. Anyway, this is like my physical TBR or part of my physical TBR. I want to do a 23 and 23 that is tied into sort of a no/low buy goal. I've got some newer books that I don't own that I'm interested in that are coming from the library. But I have a ton of books that I already own that I have never read or partially read or need to reread. So that is what this will consist of in my 23 and 23. I recorded this once yesterday and it was just too chaotic the way that I broke it down into categories because there's 23 books here and I want to try and get through them kind of quickly. So I obviously will not be doing a synopsis for all 23. I don't even know what all 23 of these books are about. I can't remember at this point. But I'll try to talk about a little bit of each of them. So I've broken them up into different sort of categories. So first we have classics that intimidate me. And then this is a stack of contemporaries back here. This is a stack of classics that are less intimidating. This is horror. This is things that I need to reread because I haven't read them since my childhood. And then this little stack down here that you can't see are tiny books that I plan to read in one sitting or in like one long stretch of time. All right, so let's start off with the most intimidating. We're gonna start off with the classics that intimidate me, and you can already see the title of one of them. And I'll just go down the list. Some of these have like similar reasons for why they're intimidating, but let me move this back here. Great. Okay, the first one, the Iliad. So I read Homer, the Odyssey when I was growing up. I kind of like, you watch the movies that are based on things from the Iliad, so I get the idea of this. I didn't realize actually how long this is. And so I bought it quite a while ago because I had the Odyssey and I was like, well, I've never read the Iliad. Let me actually like sit down and read it. I did not realize that pretty much this is it. It is, oh my gosh, it's so much. It's so big. So we will do our best to read the Iliad this year. I think I have this one like in my loose schedule that I made up. I think I have this one set for springtime. So next, I need to talk less about all these so that I can get through them in a timely manner. Jane Eyre, and I'll actually, the next one, similar backstory. When my older brother had to read Jane Eyre in high school, I remember him telling me that it was the worst book he had ever read, that he hated it, that it was too long and boring. And of course, he's not like a book person, but that's still in my head. Not that like I take his book reviews on anything seriously, but it's like, it still kept me from reading this. So I tried to start it once this year, but I got too distracted. So I'm going to try and pick this up again next year. Similar, you can't see, but it's A Tale of Two Cities. I got it used, so it's missing like the cover, the sleeve. I don't know, I can't remember. I'll figure it out halfway through. But A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I've actually never read anything from Dickens, So this will be a first for that. And yeah, someone in middle school once said that if you like watching paint dry, you'll like reading this book, and that kept me from picking it up for many, many years. The next one is Emma by Jane Austen, and the only reason why this one intimidates me is because, as you can see, I have a little bookmark in here. I've tried to read it a couple of times and just like couldn't get pulled in, or I got pulled away to other things. I have to have like multiple hours to dedicate to reading so that I can get into it. So I'm a little bit intimidated, but I have read Austen before and loved her books before, so hopefully I need to set the vibe for myself. And then this last one is like, it's Anna Karenina, and I'll put this back down here so I can rest it on top. One more. There we go. So I actually saw Books with Emily Fox. She had posted this and one other in her classics for 2023, and I'm planning on reading this, starting it actually in January. So in the next couple weeks, I'll be starting this book. This was one of 2 big chunky books that my mother-in-law got me for Christmas a few years ago. And like, I haven't even cracked this thing open because it's so intimidating. It's so large and intense, but I feel like I need to read it and I want to read it. So there we go. Also Jane Eyre, I plan on reading in November, so that I can get that moody vibe. All right, so let's move. That is all of the intimidating classics. I'm just going to put them on the floor. What next? Let's do less intimidating classics. We'll keep it like timely. Okay, so I bought Beloved by Toni Morrison when I wanted to do a challenge for myself of reading classics through the alphabet. So I started with Around the World in 80 Days, hated that book, still hate that book, only finished it because it was short. And I was like, well, I need to know that nothing exciting happens throughout the entire thing. And Beloved was what was suggested to me for B. And of course, it just happened to where I kind of lost my steam of reading. And again, I have a little bookmark, so I did try to read it. I got about 23 pages in. Nothing on the book, probably just myself, didn't like set the mood enough. So there we go. The next one is No Longer at Ease. So this is a part of the African trilogy. I also have Arrow of God, and this past year I read the first book, which is Things Fall Apart. Okay. Things Fall Apart was amazing. It was kind of difficult to read. It's definitely a different style, and I feel like with the characters he wrote in such a way not to where like you want to like them, but just this is how life is, and it's so raw, it's so good. I wanted to immediately pick up the next 2 and read them in succession. That ended up not happening for various reasons, but I definitely am excited to read No Longer at Ease this year. So happy. The House of Seven Gables, I bought it used. It's sitting there. It's not that long, but it still looks pretty dense. And yeah, it's there. I feel like I could reasonably do this year and finally read it. Also, I'm reading currently Hester, which is a historical fiction around a woman who meets Nathaniel Hawthorne. That book, it's slow going. I'm like forcing myself through it because it's good, it's enjoyable, but it's just so slow, and I need faster pace. So I was like, oh, that makes me want to reread some Nathaniel Hawthorne. That book is really more focused on like the Scarlet Letter, but this is what I have. I just don't have the Scarlet Letter, and I read that in school. So all right, 1984 by George Orwell. I've tried to read this one a couple of times, never able to get through it. I don't know why. So yeah, this is another one. People have been talking about this a lot recently with things going on in the world, so I want to be up to snuff. The next one is Virginia Woolf's Night and Day. So I have a few books by Virginia Woolf that I had gotten because at first I wanted to read her entire, like, is it anthology? Yeah. and just dive more into this author as a whole, but I didn't super get tied into her. It was hard for me. So I'm going to go back to her. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So this one I picked up. It's obviously very used. Also, little bookmark. So I already tried to read it and did not stick with it. That is the ongoing theme of most of these books. But I bought this during the booktube craze right before and right after the Netflix adaptation came out. So I obviously have not seen the Netflix adaptation because I still need to read the book. So it's not that long and people seem to really like it. So I think I could get through it, and I'll put this one down. So this is within this giant collection of Ernest Hemingway. I plan to read what I think is like the shortest book in here. It's tiny. So I plan to read, okay, everyone is honking at one time outside. The Old Man and the Sea, and it's literally this much of the book. Like I should just get another, but so it's like hard to read in these big collections, but I can't make myself buy a book that's this short when I already own it. But it also feels ridiculous to read a book this short and have to hold something this heavy. Anyways, those are my less intimidating quote unquote classics, canonical classics due to academia, or according to academia. I will put these on another place on the floor. So the next, we'll go with these two because these kind of are in the same vein. So these are even less intimidating classics because I've read them before and they are short. So first is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I had to read this twice growing up in school and I did not like it either time, but I bought it again in my more adult years because I was like, maybe I'll like it as an adult. So rereading this. And then I also want to reread The Secret Garden. I love these like versions of these classic children's literature. I also have A Little Princess, which was great. It's got illustrations in it. So this is just like when I'm bogged down from all of the other super negative, dark stuff that I read. It's like, it's just nice to read a little kitty lit. So anyway, these are like rereads from things that I have read in childhood, but I just need to read again as an adult to get like a full picture because I'm basically a different person now. So it's like reading it for the first time. So I like to have days or little chunks of time where I set aside 3 to 4 hours and just read a book. And so I will sometimes go to like Barnes and Noble or a bookshop and just try to find books around about under 150 pages. And I'll read the synopsis and just decide if it's something that I'm interested in, and then I'll pick up a collection of those just to have like one sitting reads. And these are my two one sitting reads. Joyce Carol Oates' Blackwater. This one is actually more of a classic. I think she got a Pulitzer. I'm not sure if she got one for this or not. But anyway, so I have actually started this before. I got halfway through it, but then I got a phone call and I had to put it down. And instead of picking it back up later, I decided I'll just wait and do it again in a one sitting read. So that's what this is going to be for. And then Mouth to Mouth by Antoine Wilson. I read the first chapter of it and then needed to do a one sitting read on this. Also, the first chapter takes place in an airport, and so I'm taking a flight somewhere in February. So I'm going to take this to the airport with me and read it while I'm flying. And I think that should be a really fun time. So that's my plan for both of these. I have 3 books that are considered horror. One of them is The Shining. I hope to read this in February because that's when it should be the snowiest around here. I actually got halfway through this book when I was a kid. I skipped school one day and it was stormy and gross outside. And I was like, I'm just gonna sit at home and read The Shining. And then lightning cracked about halfway through the book and it was dark and the power went out. And I have not picked it back up since. So I'm going to try that again. Another Stephen King, I tried not to duplicate authors, but that's hard for me to do with King because I did want more horror, and that's another goal that I have like for the year, just in general, but I'll use the library to get that. But my mom has this huge collection of books that people like will gift to her, and she was reading some Stephen King and had like some experience kind of like mine, and just got so scared that she unshelved all of her Stephen King books and just sent them to me. And I was like, I will take them. So I'm trying to work through some of the ones that I have not read before. But this is Salem's Lot. Funny story, I did not know that this was about vampires. I thought Salem was a cat because I grew up in the age of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So that is how my brain associated that. And then I saw like the graphic one day, I would like the front cover. I was like, oh, those kind of look like vampire teeth. And I said that to my husband and he was like, yeah, dumbass, because it's a book about vampires. He didn't call me dumbass. Or if he did, he said so lovingly. We're fine. We're fine. We're fine. So the last one for horror is actually a new one. It was the August book of the month. Again, I signed up for book of the month last year because I had lofty goals. I did not reach those goals. Anyway, so The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias. I remember reading the synopsis and being like, that looks fantastic. I don't remember what it's about now, but I have seen some other people like highly rank it. So planning on reading this and Salem's Lot in October. Might get to these sooner because I'm feeling in a very horror fiction mood. I want to get super side tangent while I pull these other books up, the last stack. But I want to try and read Grady Hendrix in preparation for How to Sell a Haunted House. So excited. I actually already have it on hold from my library, ready to get. I've heard so many good things. I need to finally read him. So the last set is more contemporary type books, and I'm going to zoom through at least most of these. I said that already like 5 times. So the first one is The Kitchen House. I believe I got this half off at Barnes and Noble and just never picked it up. So I want to finally read The Kitchen House. I feel like 10 years ago, everyone was reading this and had read it. Next is The Orphan Train. So when I was doing book reviews a couple years ago, one of my mother-in-law's friends kept talking about how badly I needed to read The Orphan Train, and so I finally picked it up, but I never opened it. So there we go. I will finally read it. Next, The Snow Child. This is another one that I had heard about a few years ago. I think it was kind of popular on BookTube for a little while. I must have heard about it a lot. And so I plan on starting this one in January or February of this year because it's mystical, it's a little bit paranormal, I think, and it's snowy. So there we go. I'm all about it. Plus, my husband and I are very interested in adopting a kid, so I feel like it's going to tug at my heartstrings a little bit. And then the last book on my 23 and 23 list is Dread Nation. I want to say that it's a Civil War retelling. I remember buying it when it first, like literally as soon as it came out, and I loved the synopsis, but I bought too many books at one time, and unfortunately this got swept up in all of that book buying. So let me see. It's kind of hard to see the cover because it's reflective, but it's actually quite beautiful. And I want to say that this is a series. So I need to give this book the respect that it deserves. And it looks like it should be pretty quick to get through. So there we go. That is all the books that I own on my physical TBR that I am just prioritizing this year based on my current emotional state. So I have plenty more books on my bookshelves that I need to get through, and I might end up picking up those. In fact, after I made this list, I went back to my shelves and I was looking at some stuff and I was like, ooh, I should have added you. So I'll probably still add some more stuff here and there. But yeah, so I'm planning on reinvigorating my booktube channel and actually posting weekly. So we'll see how that goes. Again, I try to make no promises. This is a channel of inconsistency and I just do it for fun. So if you happen to like, comment, and subscribe, that's cool, but I totally don't blame you if you don't. But yeah, it is motivating to see whenever people like, comment, and they have things that they're planning on reading too, or yeah, it's motivating. It kind of gets me more excited to read. So right now, I'll just add that I'm not including my nonfiction books on this. I'm going to keep it pretty much stuck to fiction and classical literature. So that is it. I did record this much faster than I did the last one. So I hope you have a great day. Let me know what your 2023 reading goals are, and I will check back in with you in the new year. Bye.